Hey everyone, it's Rob Folia with Folia Properties and author of Real Estate Reset. And it is the first weekday of the month. You know what that means. Let's take a look at the real estate market, see what's going on, see how 2025 is treating the world of Nashville and Middle Tennessee and the world of real estate. Before we get started, if we could, just want to share with you to please, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe, hit that like button here on YouTube. It helps this channel grow, keeps you informed on what's happening in real estate. Plus, we're going to be publishing the next episode of Will It Cash Flow really, really soon. So you get to continue on that world of real estate investing if you choose. But without further ado, let's dive in, take a look at what's happening in the world of real estate. And guys, very first thing I want to take a look at is this right here, interest rates, right? Interest rates are the thing that will help either help demand as we go through 2025 or possibly hurt demand as we go through 2025. And as we've talked about countless times on these videos, real estate is such a supply and demand industry. Demand is half that equation. Supply is the other half. And we're going to talk about supply here shortly. And yet demand, how look at these numbers. What I'm looking at right here is really the blue line, the 30-year fixed. Most buyers are buying with a 30-year fixed mortgage out there. Some are doing a 15-year, but honestly, there's not much of a difference between a 30 and a 15. If I were buying a home right now, I'd buy a 30, I'd buy with a 30 year just because it makes more sense, gives you more flexibility. You could always pay it off early if you wanted to anyway. But take a look at the numbers. We're hovering around 7% still. We've been hovering around 7% really for quite a while. You take out this one little dip we had for a couple of weeks in December. Gosh, it's been high sixes into the sevens for 3, 4 months, somewhere right in there. Plus, of course, the majority of last year. I mean, there was this dip that we had from July through, end of October. So, we had about a 3 month reprieve where we saw rates drop into the low sixes. But for the most part, we're in the sevens here. That's for excellent credit, 30-year fixed mortgage. What this tells me, and based on a conversation I had with probably my most trusted real estate mortgage advisor last week, is that we're likely he thinks we're likely not going to see rates drop anytime soon. Now, we don't know. Obviously, it's conjecture. It's pure speculation when we're talking about what rates are going to do. And yet, if last year was any indication, I mean, we saw rates obviously fluctuate throughout the year, going above seven, going to the low sixes, but then back to around seven. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something similar this year, where they might rise, they might fall, but honestly, hovering in the around seven. Um, Good. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it indifferent? It's going to depend on your situation. But the reality is, just whether real estate rates were at 7% or 3% or 5% or 10%, the most important factor to think about as a home buyer is, what's my payment going to be? Can I afford it? Does it make sense for my lifestyle, for my life? If your payment for that home you're looking at 7% makes sense for your life, it's something you might want to do, honestly. I think it's better than renting, obviously. If it helps progress you to where you're wanting to go, that's a great thing. Especially because there's no sign, no indicator that rates are going to drop anytime soon. I know, I don't get into politics in these videos, but I know sometimes people think when it comes to there being a new president, new political regime in charge, that's going to impact rates. It's not that simple, because the reality is interest rates are more tightly connected to the bond market more than anything. And so there's not necessarily some sort of magical decree that a politician, a person in power can make, that's going to just say, all right, rates are back down to 3%. It doesn't necessarily work that way. And honestly, if it did and rates were just 3% magically tomorrow, while it may make homes affordable, gosh, we would see a market like we saw in 2021 and 2022, where homes sold 20 offers in 20 minutes, because there's still not a ton of inventory out there, which leads me honestly to the second part of this video, and that is the supply aspects. We just talked about demand. We just talked about how rates are, might impact demand, how rates are around 7%, and how honestly well, most people think we're not going to see much of a change there. But one thing we have seen change is months of supply. Now, what I've got pulled up here is just Nashville, Tennessee. Obviously, if you're not in Nashville, if you're in a surrounding county, it might be a little different for you. I'm more than happy to dive into any county, any city with you guys here in Middle Tennessee. So if you're curious about it, by all means, hit that reply button in your email. Just reach out to me directly and we can talk about it. But the most interesting thing I'm seeing here is, this is the first time that I can remember, and we'll even go back to 5 years just to double check and make sure I'm not forgetting a time. It is the first time that we've seen in the last 5 years that supply and demand, months of supply, and I'll define months of supply here in just a second, has reached above 7%. Um, Months of supply, this statistic right here is telling us if no other home hit the market, based on how quickly homes were selling here in the last month or however we're calculating it by monthly right here. If no other homes hit the market, based on how quickly homes sold in the last month, how long would it take the current amount of inventory to sell? That's basically what months of supply is. And when we were at the height of the market, I mean, like right here might be the lowest, but either way, it's in the very low ones. So like think when everything sold again in 20 offers in 20 minutes, that type of market, that was a 1 month supply of inventory. That was extreme. That was the extreme seller's market. The best time ever we've ever seen to be a home seller. Possibly the best time we will ever see to be a home seller, to be quite frank with you. 7 months of supply. So 6 months is what's considered a pure balanced market. If we were at exactly 6 months of supply, it would be balanced. Now, we're never going to be exactly at six. As you can see, there's always peaks and valleys. It looks like one of those EKG charts at a doctor's office, right? It's going up and down all the time. But so most economists think 5 to 7 months, that's balanced. That's a balanced market. We're right at seven. We're at the, in fact, we're right a little above seven. Call it seven right now. I mean, we're right at the edge of what people would start to consider a buyer's market. What does that mean for you if you're a homeowner? Um, it's an interesting thought, but I honestly I don't think it impacts things much if you've got a good agent on your side. And what I mean by that is a good agent like myself, we're going to price homes correctly. We're going to inform you on what the market's actually doing. So that way your home's going to sell. It might not sell in 20 minutes like it did back in 21 and 22, but in every market, every neighborhood's going to be a little bit different. But usually within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to have those offers that make sense and we're going to get you moved on to what's next. It might even be quicker. If it's a hot neighborhood with low inventory, it might even be within a couple of days if we're priced right. That's the important part is pricing it right. Unfortunately, I see way too many agents that are out there that'll just do whatever somebody says and price a home because the homeowner wants a certain number, they price it there, and then it never sells. And honestly, we're probably seeing some of that right now, overpriced homes, and that's why we're seeing 7 months of supply. That's to me, that's probably part of it. It's also seasonality because if you look right here, January, it peaked here at the after 22 into 23. It peaked before, plummeting, months of supply plummeting, meaning it started to even back out at the beginning of 23. Same thing at the end of 23 into 24. It peaked at about 6 months of supply, then dropped right down immediately. I would not be surprised when we do our market update video, probably on March 3rd, on the very first Monday of March. I would not be surprised to see this drop down maybe even below five. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised to see this drop, is my point. Unless COVID 2.0 happens and shuts the world down, I don't see this trend continuing immediately. But the interesting thing is, well, let's do a 12-month rolling calculation just so you can see, and it's going to throw the numbers off a little bit. I doubt it's going to say 7 months of supply, and it's going to take it a minute to load, of course, because the system's not always the fastest. But you can see right here. In fact, where are we at a 12-month rolling? We're at about 4.5 months. But you can see it's very slowly creeping up. 12-month rolling is probably a bit more accurate for most people just thinking about moving, just to get a finger on the pulse of what's happening in real estate. Not for the people moving tomorrow, but people who might be moving this summer or end of this year or beginning of next, just to get a handle on what's actually, what they might expect. Because the real estate market, while things do change pretty abruptly here with rates, they don't really change abruptly here with months of supply. Unless you don't, I don't want to get into the weeds on the theory, but long story short, what I'm getting at here, as you can see, this trend line it was quickly increasing here in 23 and in 24, and it's slowly increasing here at the end of 24. And I would not be surprised to see if you revisit this video, say in 3 months, around May 3rd, you would probably see this continuing to climb. And instead of being at 4.5, it might be at five, it might be close to five. I would not be surprised to see that trend line continue, is my point. Um, what that means is, as a home seller, you have to be strategic with your pricing. And as a home buyer, there very well might be opportunities. If a home has been sitting, and in fact, a good stat to show you, I don't want to look at closed. I want to look at Average days on market. Why are you giving me two lines here, real tracks? There we go. Average days on the market before contract. You can see right here, I mean, it was 10 days for, for 6 months or 4 months, whatever that is right there without counting. But you can see right here, we're climbing. This average days before contract has, gone up. It definitely has over the last couple of years, really from the end of 22 into 23, and it's still climbing as here we're basically a month, we'll call it, average days before contract. Now, again, that's the average. That said, if a home is priced right, it should sell quicker. And the reality is there are too many homes that are overpriced, and that's why they're sitting. Um, I could ramble on this topic all day. I think it's fascinating. I do think though, and I just want to go back to one thing here before we end the video, and that's the supply and demand. This to me is a clear indicator that unless something significant changes in the market, so unless rates just plummet, or of course go up, but if they just stay the same, that we are very much entering into a balanced market, possibly going to see a buyer's market here in the next 12 months. I wouldn't be surprised. 'Cause after all, if this trend line continues, I mean, you could see from January of 23, 5 months of supply, January of 24, almost 6 months of supply, to 7 months of supply here in January 25. I wouldn't be surprised in January 26 if we're at 8 months of supply. Again, that's just the spike of the EKG. And yet, if again, like the rolling calculation, and here, if we look at a slightly less jagged one, the rolling 3 months, it'll really show us a good indicator. You see the rolling 3 months, 4.5, 5 months, 5.5 months. Again, guys, this is a clear indicator that we are entering that balanced to buyer's market territory. If you're a homeowner and you want to sell before the market changes, now is the time. I can't beat that drum enough. Like now, now being 2025, now is the time to sell. Spring of 2025, basically get your home on the market in the next 3 to 4 months is what I'm trying to say. It's the time to do it. As always, I'm happy to walk through these numbers with you for your particular situation. Give me a shout. Again, if you're seeing this in your email, hit that reply button. Ask your questions. I'm happy to help. If you're seeing this on socials, please hit that follow button, hit that like button, and let's grow these channels so true real estate education can get out there to more people. Thank y'all so much. I will see y'all next time. Take care. Thanks, y'all.